Ooh, this is
It's a whole level of technology above what we have, but we are, in fact, live out there on the internet.
Yeah,
how's it going?
If we had a theme song, it'd probably have to be something royalty free, or we'd have to commission somebody to make it. I think that could be a lot of fun. Anybody in the chat right now, what do you guys think?
Well,
pick the most, or if anyone's watching right now, they should pick the most inappropriate song you can think of. Not inappropriate as in 30, but inappropriate as
thinking that I could make one. I mean, how tough would that be? I'm a musician. I know musicians. We can just do it that way.
All right, we're streaming right now, right?
3 chords on the truth, brother.
Oh, there it is. It just popped up. All right. We currently have.
We are in fact live. So far, yeah, we do have one viewer, and at this point, it would be you.
I found.
That's okay. It's okay.
It might be me. I might be watching on YouTube as we speak through my phone.
Oh yeah. Well, the joke's on you. I'm doing the same thing.
Oh.
Okay. Well, if there's you and there's you and then there's 3, so one other person. Hello, other person. So let's introduce our panel because we're very. I'm feeling really. Oh, hey, it's Scott. Hey, Scott, coming to us from the land of the mitten.
The land of the mitten, or yeah, I mean that's a little. It could be like a disfigured mutant hand. I take that.
Oh yeah.
Friggin' Michigan.
I am a zombie hand posing a state.
Now that's a little funny to bring up the zombie hand thing because Darby here is a big fan of the Evil Dead movies.
I am,
which were
amongst other movies. Big zombie fan in general.
Oh, you that was last week. Sorry, you got to come back another time. No, I'm just kidding. We did have a great discussion with the creator of Undead Row. What was it? Or what now?
Wes.
What was his name? Wes. Damn it! I don't know why that was hard for me. Yeah, that was a great time.
Look at it forever.
Yeah, he actually was really kind enough to spend his birthday with us. Now, gazing into the future, I was thinking on, I forgot to say it earlier, but I wanted to call this episode The State of the MC Union. I thought that would be pretty good.
I actually can change it, so.
Everybody just pretend, use your imagination.
Pickle says that his internet is off, so he's back on stream with us. We appreciate it. But we're going to go ahead and like I said, normally we try to be a little more formal about stuff, but for some reason today I'm just whatever. Welcome to the Mattriarchy. Those of us who have never been here or are watching this in repeats. Today was warm and muggy, which is weird. Coming to my co-host from our extreme east is hello, Matt.
In the land of random weather. Hey, everybody.
Land of random weather.
Now, if we haven't introduced our guest today is Darby. Just to assume he's extremely Irish, his last name is going to be like O'Brien.
Close.
Now, the topic of discussion today. Recently, what was that?
Darby, you're cutting out on it there, man.
Yeah, there is a bit of lag. Now it's fine. Now it's just
my audio or my video.
Okay, so now we're talking about the MCU. Recently, I forget, what was it? San Diego Comic-Con came around and they announced, 9 movies in 1 year alongside other movies to come out over the next couple of years and kind of the release schedule for them. Now, this could be taken a number of ways. Personally, just to address the immediate thoughts, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm completely negative about it. I know Rhys is not very happy, and a lot of people aren't very happy either. They think that this is kind of the sign of the end times. But I think that there's still potential for some of these movies. I think that some characters didn't need movies crammed into 1 year. I think that 9 movies from one studio is excessive to the point of being able to cowboy and space age the superhero genre for a while.
Well, one of the things.
Yeah, that's gonna be if Toy Story was made now, it would be like the transition.
Well, is that you're missing one key thing, Matt, which is not all of them are movies.
Right.
Some of them are the Disney Direct TV.
I think Loki, that's not a movie.
That's the ultimate. Your mom watches it on the couch show. It's like, it's gonna be like, oh, have you seen the new episode of Loki? Like, oh my gosh. Like that's how that came up to me.
That's gonna be one that everyone's gonna be like, the mom. Look, I'm gonna go play ball outside. I'm gonna go do things other kids do.
Yeah, but like, I think that's kind of just the way things are progressing right now. I personally, Rhys has said he does not like Endgame. He did not like Endgame very much. He thought it was terrible. I liked it.
I agree.
I liked Endgame, but I will say, actually, I would even go as far to say that I loved it to a degree because it was like, it was kind of it was almost a celebration, like it has problems as a movie. There's some writing issues and some tonal consistencies that don't follow from previous characters' behavior. I do think some characters got fixed up from their treatment in Infinity War, like where some characters just all felt like they were trying too hard to be someone else when they were next to Tony Stark. The directors didn't want them to look like them or to sound and act like Tony Stark, so they had to adjust characters like Star-Lord they changed Star-Lord a little too much. That's something that bothers me. But I liked Endgame. I had a lot of fun watching it. It was like, it was like a big send-off to the last 10 years, even if I think it could have been done better, but
yeah,
I think, I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. That's just how I feel. Yeah, Pickle says it. I have problems
here. Now, you and I have talked about it. Yeah. So Matt, before we get too into the weeds, you and I have talked on stream a little bit about it in previous times, but I would love to hear what Darby thinks about Endgame in less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes. Are you guys hearing me all right?
Oh yeah, you're good.
I guess I got to talk in order for you to know that.
It's coming in and out.
Is it maybe is it this? Should I take these off? Try and experiment really quick.
It might be that. I don't know.
Does that fix anything? Can
yes.
you hear better now without the weird microphone thing? Yes, maybe, no.
Yeah, I think I can hear you a little better. It's more consistent anyway.
Okay. Well, so as far as Endgame goes, I thought the movie.
One thing, Darby. Hold your phone closer to your head. There we go.
How about this? If I try and put it closer to my mouth here, does that work a little bit better?
I think so.
Okay.
Man, hey, let me see if I can adjust your volume at all. I should be able to have a little bit of control on it.
Okay.
I've never used it before.
Yeah. Well, you guys are kind of cutting in and out too. Maybe I have a bad connection or somewhere in my house. Let me move closer to the Wi-Fi, maybe. So yeah, I'll just start talking and maybe you can adjust that. But Endgame goes, I thought the whole movie was just kind of a drag, literally and figuratively. Like the movie dragged on. So I know that you guys, you're much more fans of the comic books, and I come from sort of watching these as cartoons, as the Saturday morning cartoons, and the whole time I just couldn't help but think, like, man, if this was a cartoon, they would have had this whole Infinity Saga wrapped up in an hour. Right, they would have gotten everybody snapped away, and they would have gotten everybody back within 2 episodes. And so I thought the movie it just moved too slow. It was kind of dull. I don't know if I'm coming up on 5 minutes, but maybe my biggest problem in it is and spoiler alert, is the time travel.
Keep going.
So I think even before Infinity War was out, people were like, "Oh, it's time travel. That's the answer. That's got to be the way that they fixed it, right?" And the Russo brothers were like, "No, it's gonna be a little more complicated than time travel." And then Infinity War comes out, and people are like, "Oh, it's time travel," and they're like, "No, it can't be time travel." Then Ant-Man comes out, and they're like, "It's time travel. It's got to be time travel." And they say again, "No, it's going to be more complex than that." And so people start coming up with like these really creative theories as to like what's going on. People are trapped inside the Soul Stone. Just all sorts of great alternatives. And even they get to like the Ant-Man goes up Thanos's butt and explodes him. And then the Russo brothers were finally like, "Well, some theories are more correct than others." And then the movie comes out, Endgame comes out, and within the first 10 minutes, it's like, "Oh, it's time travel. We spent like 3 years tricking you guys." So I was a little disappointed. I thought that was a little too simple of a solution, the whole time travel thing. Did you get any of that?
Yeah, I actually heard all that. That was really
I've said this before, but I'm going to say this again. So here's the thing. They say, okay, it's time travel. We're going to do time travel. It's great. It's quantum mechanics. It's great. It'll work great. And then they spend 20 minutes explaining the rules for time travel. And in their rules, they openly mock Back to the Future, which is the perfect time travel movie. It's perfect. And then they proceed to reuse the plot from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is a fun movie, but not a good time travel movie.
It depends when it comes to time travel. Like, to me, the way that I instantly knew this was, I call it the Dragon Ball time traveling, which is, you create an alternate timeline when you travel back, so you're not going to return to the same future, or like, it's whack stuff, or it can be a little hard to explain to some people, but it's also easier to clean up after, instead of having to go like, okay, we go back and you have to think of all the ramifications for this. Let's see, my one thing I actually have a criticism about with Infinity War is it kind of felt like, I figured, okay, it didn't really feel as much like an MCU movie as much as it felt like a big production of a Marvel comic event. Like, I like Metal, for example, but Metal has some of the same problems I can kind of see with this, where it kind of feels like some of the stuff feels forced rather than feeling like a natural conclusion for everything. It kind of feels like they just squeeze everything into this little movie and tried to just cut the bits out that don't fit. Let's see, Nacho / Pickle says they don't even.
My problem with yeah, and that's the other thing that pisses me off about it is they don't stick to their rules. In fact, they break every single one of them. So the fact that they're making fun of Back to the Future, which breaks 0 of its rules, even in the third movie, they're all consistent. It's causality, effect, it's all tied in there. It's great, but dadgummit if I'm mad about the stupid other thing. Anyway. Just Endgame just makes me angry. But to the subject of the Infinity War. I'm sorry, you were saying? Okay, I thought you'd said something, Darby. The subject of Infinity War. I don't think that it felt like everything was crammed in there. I think that I think it was pretty smoothly done with where things fit in it. The problem was it built this promise of an adventure, and we didn't get an adventure in Endgame. We got a best of album. It was the best hits. It was Avengers Best Hits Volume 2. Wasn't even the good cuts, and it was all studio stuff. I've used that metaphor before, but I didn't care for it. Scott in the chat said the greatest point in Endgame was when they launched Hawkeye back to the past like Samurai Jack.
See, my other issue is that some of the conclusions for the characters feel kind of natural, and then then it was kind of the issue of execution for me when it came to Captain America, because he starts and he's like, I think it's fine for him to go back and say, like, this is like, I think I've done this for so long, but what do I actually want out of life? And he goes back, and now that it's possible, and he gets the life that he wanted. But in this other with what happened at the end is it all felt kind of. I wish that he would have said goodbye to everybody instead of just disappearing without doing anything and then showing up as an old man to only talk to the one person.
And he was kind of a dick about it.
Yeah. Have you seen all the jokes about it? It's like, oh, Steve.
The whole Captain in that movie.
He felt out of character the whole movie, actually, come to think of it, like swearing.
Yeah, and like the Captain America. In fact, here's my thing. And it's not just him; it's all of the main actors. That it's like the Russo brothers were like, you guys have done such a great job acting this whole time. Why don't you go ahead and take the movie off and just be your Twitter selves?
So, Dan says that's how Game of Thrones was, although I didn't keep up with that show. I didn't really watch it in the first place, to be honest.
Yeah, the end was just like D&D pretty much, just like rushed a bunch of episodes because they wanted to do Star Wars. So they just made a whole bunch of it.
That's a shame. Yeah, and then Iron Man just got one to live happily ever after and never got it. Well, that's kind of, I did like this, like, it is a sacrifice. And, I thought that was kind of it's again, like the idea and the execution. That could have been a little better, but the Captain America one bothers me more just because I feel like it could have been done so much better and could have had such a bigger impact. Because the idea is great. The core idea of his ending is wonderful. And it's a nice exit for the character.
My problem with the Iron Man is that Iron Man is so he's been the villain of the MCU since Avengers 2. He's the cause of everything that's gone wrong since Avengers 2, and he gets zero justice for it.
Yeah, you would have figured he would have at least acknowledged it's like I didn't always make the right decisions, or I messed up pretty bad sometimes.
Yeah,
like they do just sweep it under the rug, and that's the problem with both of the Civil War comic events. Like we talked about before, I felt like Civil War, the comic should have been its own standalone story so that they could squash and stretch what they needed to instead of taking pre-established characters. But overall, it's we're not going to open that can of worms. Rhys hates it. I like it. Civil War, the book. But both of them have that problem where it's like everything feels like it goes. And then once it's over, just like a lot of other comic events, it never happened. Like, no one looks back at it. No one thinks, oh, gee, yeah, Tony Stark punched me in the face. Or, yeah, Captain Marvel just Minority reported a ton of people. But no, she's the hero of the entire universe.
Well, let's go ahead and set the past aside for a minute. I'm sorry, Darby, you saying something? Or is that Dan?
Spider-Man Far From Home kind of addressed Tony being a jerk. I don't know if there's a moratorium for spoilers for that.
With that movie, yes. With Endgame, no.
I haven't seen it.
But I mean, they're like they are continuing it with the story in some way. So I mean, they had an awful lot to do in Endgame, and so I can kind of forgive them for that. In a way, they do address it in Civil War and the MCU.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying, Darby?
Oh, I'm just saying that they do address that within this MCU. Maybe not in Endgame, but they do address it.
Yeah, I actually think it should have been addressed blatantly in Civil War. When that whole big conflict, when Tony's personally mad at Sebastian Stan, I guess sorry, he's personally mad at Bucky for something he did, mind control. But this has only come to the foreground because of stuff that Tony did that was equally as bad in terms of negligence, even worse.
Oh, it's cutting out again.
Because he wasn't mind controlled. Anyway, so we're looking at we're enough grousing about the past. We're looking at the properties of the future. And I will say personally, I'm so disappointed by Endgame, that I will not be paying attention in the future. In fact, my kids are sort of moping around because they kind of want to see Far From Home, and I'm just like, you guys have money, you guys have a car, do what you want.
That was I felt like a little different about that one in particular, just because I felt like it was already planned out and everything before Endgame. But I feel like a lot of the projects that they've announced and haven't worked on yet, WandaVision, for God's sakes. Why is that? Who approved the name? That's Wanda and the TV show, or I think it's a TV show. They're doing a bunch of TV shows.
Yeah, I think they're doing like a rom-com kind of.
Can you imagine that as like a really lame superhero version of what was it called? What was this? Robin Williams. What was Robin Williams' debut?
Mork and Mindy. Oh
yeah.
No. Yeah, was it?
Yeah, that was it.
I'm planning on getting the new Jim game on WandaVision.
It sounds like a TV thing, like coming to you, 1955 in beautiful WandaVision. The name is not good. Okay. The Past Masters.
It's a game platform.
That they're actually official.
Gym game for the WandaVision.
The ones with the CG on. The ones without them look terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, Dan. That was bad. Yeah, the misfortune of seeing. Let's see, what else do they got? They've got like Black Panther 2, I'm guessing. I'm gonna have to pull it. They have What If, and I was kind of surprised by that one. Is that a TV show or a movie?
I think that one was a TV show. I think and that's the one that almost sounds like a cool idea. It's kind of like the Twilight Zone, where every episode is supposed to be a what if, a different take on an element or an event, backstory from the MCU. So
I just realized
it's one of those things where it's like a concept.
I just realized something that Black Widow is. First of all, I'm noticing so Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's gonna be Disney Plus. What If is a Disney Plus. Loki is Disney Plus. Hawkeye is Disney Plus. WandaVision is Disney Plus. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is still too many movies. No, that's across 2021 as well. So 2020, we have 2 movies. We have Black Widow and the Eternals. Out of all these, okay, so I guess I should read them off to the audience if they don't know about this yet. We have Black Widow, a standalone movie. I'm gonna guess it's set in the past because someone is kind of dead. That, or if she gets undeaded, then we've jumped the shark.
Yeah.
But May 1st, 2020, it's supposed to be coming out alongside that Green Lantern movie. That's never gonna happen, I guess. And then in the fall of 2020, there's Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. In November, we have the Eternals. I'm not very familiar with the Eternals whatsoever. The only movie upcoming here is the only movie I have any interest in at all, which is Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, because that sounds, it's Shang-Chi, and he's I want to see more kung fu movies. Like, I really would love to see more kung fu movies.
Is that Mandarin stuff?
Yeah, I would guess that's the actual Mandarin, which is going to be kind of weird when they had the fake one.
Yeah, I hated that. That's probably like my least favorite thing in the MCU is the fake Mandarin.
With like all his drugs and prostitutes and stuff. Here, and then we have the. Okay, I actually just realized something that spring 2021 with the release of WandaVision on Disney Plus. It actually they're making the joke for me that's the plot of the show, because the logo actually looks like a retro refrigerator logo, or like it would be on a TV or something. Maybe a car, yeah. Let's see, spring 2021, May, and then you have Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. I heard that was going to be like a more disturbing movie. Yeah, that was. I think that's what I heard from multiple people. Loki, the TV show.
Doctor Strange.
That seems like it's got teenage girl written all over it. I'm not touching that with a 39.5 foot pole.
I would like Loki.
I like Loki, but like that show, it's like it's like specifically made with like the pure extract of 13-year-old girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Summer 2021, we have What If on Disney Plus. I'm guessing that's just a bunch of. It's gonna be like Twilight Zone, but with goofy Marvel stories or What If stories. I think that has potential, but I mean, I don't really like. I think if that's part of your lineup, I feel like that would come in later down the line.
I mean, is that going to be with the big MCU actors? I mean, is Robert Downey Jr. going to return to do a What If Iron Man story?
What if Iron Man was not Iron Man and it was just a businessman because that's what we can afford and not make look terrible with TV quality
Right.
CG.
What if he used
the plan is like some of the lower tier actors that are still like around, like some of those other guys that aren't the big names. So not Chris Evans, not
probably not even Chris Pratt.
They're already getting their own TV shows. Like
Speaking of which, I just noticed that in the next 2 years, like despite all this stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, there is like nothing here. So like that movie and the sequel to Spider-Man Far From Home was left, like apparently Far From Home left on a cliffhanger. Both movies that actually would interest me are not going to be out for another 3 years. And then so you have Hawkeye on Disney Plus. Apparently that's not going to be about Jeremy Renner as much as it's going to be about it's nothing you need to know.
Well, and the Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop is supposed to be Renner's daughter in this one, and so it's the two of them together, and like he's training his daughter to be like his sidekick. So that's a little different take, and I think that might actually that's probably the only project I have any interest in. But it's going to be a Disney Plus series. They're not going to get that money from me.
There. I've just heard a thing that I've never noticed, so I don't know if I can't verify it, but that they never call Hawkeye in any of the Marvel movies. They refer to him as the Hawk, but they refer to him as like his real name.
Yeah, they just say
But in Endgame, when he's like showing his daughter how to shoot, he refers to her as Hawkeye, and we know that like the future is female and all of that stuff. Yeah. So is it a possibility that it's going to be his daughter is Hawkeye?
I think that I think you're actually wrong. I think in Thor that what Coulson calls him Hawkeye is like a nickname, not like a serious thing. He's like, oh, what do you see, Hawkeye? And I think that's in there in Thor. I might be wrong about that, but I believe that's.
I don't.
Yet I just realized is that even though they've talked about it in the past, there's also no Black Panther or Captain Marvel 2. And over here, there's and I'm gonna say least because I'm not looking forward to this. I see this as a sign of the end times. It's Thor: Love and Thunder, which at first you're just like, ooh, and then you find out it's about bringing Natalie Portman back to be Jane Foster Thor, and you're like, oh, goodbye.
It was. I have to say that wasn't even thumbs down from Darby. I agree, but there wasn't even a moment of interest. They so thoroughly destroyed the Thor character and took the biggest steaming dump over all of Norse mythology. And anybody who's ever come from Northern Europe, that they could screw themselves. I am so angry about that. Like there is nothing that Disney could do to make me watch another Thor movie.
What did they do?
Everything. I mean,
why is your dander ruffled?
Fat Thor for one. They instead of like acknowledging Thor's character and his person has been revealed, they decided that Chris Evans would make a great Jeff Lebowski. I mean, not Chris.
Yeah, you're wrong, Chris. Wrong, Chris.
Chris Helmsworth would make a great Jeff Lebowski. So let's just go ahead and pull that out of there. And that was the performance choice they had. Is we're just going to go ahead and say, hey, you be old fat Jeff Bridges, okay? And
I
just
loved it.
that's oh my god, I couldn't stand minute one.
I feel like between that and Ragnarok, they're kind of settling Thor into his character. Like I think the first two Thor movies, like Thor's like my favorite of the Avengers, but I think his movies are like the weakest up until Ragnarok.
Up until Ragnarok,
they finally started settling him into what they wanted him to be.
But that's the problem, is what they wanted him to be, not what he's supposed to be. Like, what Thor is, like, mythologically, like, the runic symbol for Thor is the same runic symbol for male.
Mm-hmm.
Thor is to be the epitome of what masculinity under the Norse concept is. He's supposed to be, ideally, he's supposed to be a protector, but he's supposed to be brutal. He's supposed to take shit from no one, right? And that concept of nobility that we worked in there into the idea that, which is not incompatible with it, that nobility and service that was part of the intrinsic aspect of Thor, as written by Lee and Kirby, is all within that context. But the Thor, where he comes from a place where he's finally serving people and using his power for the benefit of others, and understanding that his weakness is his strength, right? That whole thing. And he was, instead of that, to like, then he's suddenly some gym bro who has no thought for the greater picture and all the kind of stuff. And even the character development that they did within Ragnarok, they ignored so they could get angry Thor, the whole part of Infinity War, where he's going to get a hammer because he needs a hammer, when one of the big whole points of Infinity War was for him to come, for Ragnarok was to come into himself in a way.
Yeah, I guess they do kind of retread ground right there. But they do, or I'll be honest, I liked I liked the humor, even if like I said, it wasn't really appropriate. It's like when it kind of felt like, even though I enjoyed it, and I did not enjoy what I'm about to compare it to whatsoever. Tom King, when he came in and was like, he made Hal Jordan say, I don't even know what will is, what the hell willpower is. Just the whole thing. And he also just like, but he also says constantly, like in everything, it's like will, the pure concentrated energy based on, what you want and how you can achieve it. And, it's like Tom King had no outsider information, so he just went for it anyway. But the part there that doesn't make sense is the Russo brothers clearly, from their past experience with all these movies, do understand these characters, or what they're like in the MCU at the very least.
So, yeah, I wanted to see a Ragnarok, not a Ragnarok movie. I wanted to see a Thor movie that gave him an excuse to explore. And the thing about the first two movies that I think people are missing, right, is because Thor is supposed to represent masculinity, right? And Jane Foster is supposed to represent femininity, right? And the complementary nature of those two forces, right? So what Thor is when he's in the old comics, what Thor was when he wasn't Thor, when he was just Donald Blake, is he was potential without power, right? And so he had to learn to be power with potential as Thor, right? And then the Jane Foster character, the whole dynamic in that was the concept, the truth that women civilize men. They give us a focal point to use the natural aggression and forcefulness of manhood to build something greater for the future. And so the potential for the future is all that's part of. And they started building in some of those sorts of things, but you don't have a third movie that allows you don't have a third movie that allowed the completion of that for not only is Thor an active role, but Portman, Foster was as well. And they've sidestepped the entire thing by having them break up off screen, and now they're bringing Jane Foster.
Now she's supposed to come crawling back to us.
Here's the thing, though. In the first two Thor movies, the worst parts were Natalie Portman and Kat Dennings. Like, all the stuff that took place on Earth was awful. All the stuff that took place in Asgard was awesome.
Yeah,
I'll give you, well, not all of it, but much of it.
well, I mean,
I think they made a good
you're
choice.
kind of biased though, because you really care about genuine Norse mythology, and Marvel took some creative liberties. And I love what Marvel did, even if I like both versions. I mean, but I'm also, Rhys, I'm biased towards bastardizing things.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that was. So I wanted to address a couple things in the chat. Michael says that they've milked Loki. And side note, in Norse myth, Loki, in one of his schemes to trick Thor, actually took the form of a she-wolf and was cursed and had to stay as a she-wolf for a time period. And in the middle of all that, ended up getting pregnant. And after he brought that cub to bear and bore the cub, that became the Fenris and Ragnarok devoured the sun. So Loki's been milked before, so don't worry about that too much.
Well, so if we're going to talk about like the old myths and the Thor and Loki relationship, I really want to bring up the story where the Frost Giants steal. What do they steal? They steal Freya, or no. They steal Thor's hammer, and they want to marry Freya, and so Thor and Loki go dressed in drag, pretending to be Freya and like a handmaid to marry. I mean, I want that movie. Where's that movie?
That would be an awesome
That would
movie.
not go over well today.
Oh, yeah.
They'd see it as a mockery. They'd see it as a mockery of the transsexual life. I mean, they get upset at the harmless cross-dressing stuff in Final Fantasy VII and Breath of the Wild. Like, there's no way they'd take that one sitting down.
Another thing in the chat.
Yeah, there's cross-dressing in Breath of the Wild for like a little bit because the Gerudos. Yeah. Let's see. Whatever the plot of the film, Jane is dying of cancer. She had Val run around the universe trying to save her. Probably will make another one. Honestly, this is like, and I think the sign of me feeling that Endgame was a bit of a comic book event is kind of a sign for the worst, because it doesn't feel like in my opinion, the high quality work that they did for the rest of the MCU. That was, they had some really nice stories. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. And then these next movies they're not instilling a lot of hope in me. I think that someone can do something with them, but I think this is kind of where it takes a turn. And I feel like, I think Disney just in general, I mean, they're still making money. The fact that The Lion King broke like $200 million on its opening weekend and then everyone's like, oh, this movie looks terrible. I don't want to go see it. And everyone just immediately jumps into, and everyone goes to see it anyway.
Yeah.
And like, people go like, oh, why do these movies keep getting made? And then you're the problem. You keep seeing them.
Right.
So,
Some of them had potential. The only one that I've actually enjoyed whatsoever would be like Beauty and the Beast. The other ones, I didn't. No, I haven't seen them. Okay, you like?
I could be completely honest. I could care less. No, I couldn't care less to see any of those live action remakes. You're treading new ground. You're treading old ground.
True.
It was done right the first time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's
at the risk of bringing other movies I hate to mind. I gotta say, let it go. Just make some new stuff. The world's full of this. And here's the thing that gets me is everybody goes on and on about like we need more minority representation in movies. Well, then why the heck aren't you making the story of Anasazi? Why aren't you making a historically accurate Sinbad? Disney?
Yeah, why did they go out of their way thinking? Well, I mean, to be fair, we did get a really good Sinbad movie at the turn of the century. DreamWorks.
Mm-hmm.
The animated movie. But
movie.
yeah, back when DreamWorks had the best 2D animation. Yeah, especially Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt was really good. I gotta give you that.
Yeah, but so much potential. Like the only idea they have is to take pre-established characters and then race bait to market them.
Yeah.
That's what's stupid. Like it's really opaque, but no one really actually. It's you can see right through it. It's so transparent. It's like I can.
Yeah.
Your anger, your attempt to exploit my anger is admirable, but I cannot be baited.
That's what.
This
So,
from JoJo. Don't go to the movies. DreamWorks is good. I still hate that they weren't fighting in Thanos that killed their friends and family. That was something else that kind of put me down. It's like it's not the same guy. I mean, it's the same powers and everything else, but it's not exactly, it's not the Thanos that killed them all. It's another earlier version of him before he did everything.
That's one of the things about Endgame that didn't make any sense.
Ooh, yeah.
The transition of Nebula's character within the story, right? She grew to hate Thanos because she realized that Thanos had just been using her and had been giving favorable treatments to Gamora. So instead of being the willing to please lapdog, she realized that she just was being used. So then when Nebula from the past interfaces with Nebula from the present in that thing, she has all of the memories, but she doesn't remember that Thanos' affection is not for sale. That he still will have affection for Gamora despite being betrayed. So that's the thing. It's just like that was one of the biggest plot holes in that story. It just makes me crazy. Okay, I want to address something Scott earlier had said. Wait, the Mandarin was a real person? And Marvel says, yes, the guy from the Extremis used the image because the real deal was a threat in the world. That's actually was canon before the Shang-Chi movie was announced. That was actually, it was one of those little Marvel snippets.
The Marvel shorts.
Marvel shorts that were done.
Yeah, they break him out of jail.
Yeah, it's Good to Be King, I think is what it's called. And they end up breaking Ben Kingsley out of jail, and revealing that he's now going to serve the true Mandarin, or he's gonna face penalty for claiming to be the Mandarin. So, and the Ten Rings were established as an actual organization in the first Iron Man movie. So that's
true.
That stuff's been in the lore the whole time. I don't think it's fleshed out the whole time, but there's been seeds that have been there since 2008. So it's not as if you've watched all of the stuff and you're a huge dork for it. And I guess that's probably part of why I was so affected by Endgame, was that I was buying the Blu-rays so that I could get the special feature disc, and watching those little shorts and everything. And once a year, my family would sit down and watch like all 12 movies or all 15 movies, and not all at once, just like over the course of our evening movie.
Nacho brought up something in the chat that I wanted to say. Apparently, What If is animated. Hopefully not by the same team that does the Disney XD stuff.
Oh, there you go. That's an idea. But yeah, so that's the issue, is that it's all kind of weird. But anyway, so let's do it's coming up on an hour, not quite, but let's have a little room for conversation. I want us each to give our not sure, Star, we'll find out. One second here, I got the belch. Excuse me. I was drinking this tasty Verner's, and it's very very airy. So anyway, that's for you in Michigan. But yeah, let's go ahead and go through, and I want you guys to give a 1 out of 10 prediction for how well you think the totality of the Marvel MCU will be going forward. Okay? So 10, excellent prognosis. 1, giant flaming dirtbag. Okay? So, Darby, you're the guest. First.
So, so out of the movies and TV shows and stuff that have been announced, for the most part, I really don't care. I didn't realize that timeline is for 3 years, and so they're going to have something or really nothing for 3 years. And at some point there has to be diminishing returns. So I don't know. I'm gonna sit at a solid 5, like hopeful that they can do something cool and they can keep going, because I really enjoy the large cinematic universes. I mean, I think that's a pretty rad idea that could only be done now in cinema's history. But I can also see it tanking as well, just not making enough money to continue. So I'm just gonna say 5, a nice, safe, neutral answer.
That's kind of I was actually going to say that myself was I kind of say 5, and my only answer is because, and the only reason I really say that, even though like I think this is a weak lineup, these are some really lesser known name or like lesser characters. Like I mean, as great as some of them are, like Blade and Shang-Chi, but that's kind of the only hope I have in them is because the past couple movies have been so good. But I kind of see Endgame as being the big climax of the era or of the superhero movie era. Like, more and more like, back in 2016, I remember I'd hear people that were kind of ahead of the curve saying, I'm kind of tired of superhero movies. And as more time goes on, I kind of hear it more and more where people are like, I'm just kind of tired of seeing them. Yeah. And, I think it's going to go back down to being to the way I kind of see things happening. And, I'm not a prophet. These things could change, the way I kind of see these things going is that it's going to go back to what it was kind of before all these movies blew up as big as they did. Like, they were a hit with the fans, but those are like, and, these characters and such, they're recognized outside of the comic bubble, but the fans are really what bring it together. And people are like, oh, yeah, I respect superheroes. I like superheroes. But, like, it's going to kind of die down from being what it is right now.
Yeah. So I think that we are looking at, I think we're going to have diminishing returns, but I think we're going to have the Star Wars effect happening hard. I think that people were willing to love Endgame because they're just pulling those nostalgia strings. And so many people, where I'm at, that is right now, I disapprove of people that are giving me poor quality stuff and expecting me to swallow it because of nostalgia. I'm like, you don't own my past, jackass. So the fact that Endgame did not live up to quality, what I feel is the market quality, and was just like, hey, do you remember this movie, this scene, that was fun? Hey, do you remember this movie, this scene, that was fun? I immediately was just like,
but okay. That.
Oh man.
But that.
My mom's watching this.
Well, your mom knows that you hang out with big people. Okay. So anyway,
I mean, I kind of thought it was because I saw this as the climax of the superhero age and everything else. It's kind of like what you would say to a friend when they're going, like, you talk about the times you had together. You talk about the good experiences and say, like, it was a good run. It was a great time. But on the other hand, it also, like, I could see where it came off, where it does come off as a little gimmicky. But I do like the Midnight Cherry comes in and says, bring back Meteor Man and Mystery Man and make it a shared universe.
Ooh.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. I can't believe I've never considered that.
What about Blank Man? Isn't that wasn't that one of the Wayans brothers?
It was one of the Wayans.
I will never
like
forget
Ghetto Batman
for white chicks. I will. That will be forgiven.
Yeah, well,
it was Damian Wayne.
Damian Wayne.
Wait, is his name seriously Damian Wayans?
Damon, the guy that
he's in Major Pain.
He's in Major Pain. Yeah. He was that one. He was Blank Man.
Yeah. And it's about a guy it's about a black kid from the city who was obsessed with Batman 66, and he's a little slow. So he decides that he's going to go in on it, be a superhero because there's crime that he's got to fight. I don't know. I didn't think it was that funny. It was mostly cheap jokes and a lot of blue humor that I felt didn't fit the paradigm. But
that sounds like a Wayans movie.
Yeah, that's true. Midnight Cherry says Mystery Men can share a universe with any superhero, and that is true because they were created as an adjunct to the Flaming Carrot, which is a pastiche of all superheroes. So, but that would be the Meteor Man, and Mystery Man would be awesome.
You know what? Actually, I was just thinking about this, Rhys. I think as time goes on, because if you think about it, back before the 2000s, like we didn't have the level of. I know this is like a little rash to say, but we didn't have like the level of quality in writing that we did with a lot of these, or really a lot of the money poured into these things. Like think about a lot of the like superhero movies and stuff that came out in the 80s. It wasn't nearly as big as, aside from Batman and Superman, but like it wasn't nearly as big as what we had, what we have now. And that was what, that would have been like 20 years, 40 years after superheroes were
I
created.
think a lot of people like take the time to think about the fact that like technology has expanded so much that it makes the special effects in superheroes seem it's more attainable. And not only have budgets exploded, but the actual effects technology is more, which is why you look at like, it's just such a different world. I mean, think about the superhero movies that really hold up from way back in the day. It's just a handful. You got Rocketeer. The effects were awesome on, and they're all practical, right?
That amazes me.
Yeah. And you've got the Tim Burton Batman films. The effects hold up in those pretty well. Aside from
the Burton Batman movies, those are bad. I used to love Batman. Like I see a lot of people say, "Oh, I love Batman Forever." Batman Forever is not a good movie. Go back and watch it again. Even as a cheesy movie, I did like I loved it as a kid, and I loved Batman and Robin as a kid too.
I love Batman and Robin now as an adult.
You love Batman and Robin for other reasons.
I loved Batman and Robin as a kid because it was so silly. It was because my exposure to Batman was Lego Batman. That was how I got into it. Also, I was like, oh, it's a goofy, fun universe, and that's what I thought it was. And I didn't know the legacy and everything else behind this character. I just thought he was like a kind of a silly character. And then as I got older, and I was like, oh, okay, he has this he means so many different things. But looking back at what I was gonna say is what I kind of see the future of cinema, like the next trend for it. And this is something that Guillermo del Toro has said is when they eventually break the video game movie curse and start making consistently good. Because they could too. Apparently, there's a new Mortal Kombat in development. It's actually gonna have blood. They're actually gonna try. I mean, the originals, people always said that they loved the original Mortal Kombat. They think the original Mortal Kombat movies. Kind of like an old cheesy, it is like an old cheesy martial arts movie, but like the old Mortal Kombat movies, they felt like those were the best video game movies that we were going to get. And I was like, yeah, but the bar was set so low. Think about what were they going into? Street Fighter, the movie, Mario Brothers, where they had guns and Yoshi.
I love the Mario Brothers movie.
Man, Mario Brothers is so
again for different reasons.
I can't believe you even name it here. That's so bad. It was terrible.
And it just to this day, like we got the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and I doubt that this redesign of Sonic the Hedgehog is going to make it any better. It's still like the writing still looks bad. This movie looks like no effort was put into it whatsoever. And then the only thing of the best video game movies tend to be just okay. And that's kind of sad to me. Like I was asked, I was like, wait, they made a Warcraft movie? And Carl was like, yeah. And I was like, what was it like? He was like, Warcraft was the most legendarily okay movie I've ever seen. He said it wasn't terrible, but it was the most okay movie he's ever seen. And for a series, like I'm not a big Warcraft fan, but for a series with that legacy, Warcraft was everything in the 2000s.
Well, see, I would have to say that's exactly what I would expect from a Warcraft movie. Because as popular as Warcraft and World of Warcraft are, the world is just kind of the world. It's
actually, when you dive into when you do from the surface, and that's kind of a problem I think I have with a lot of Blizzard properties. Like I love StarCraft now, but I always thought it was just some really boring, stereotypical sci-fi or military game. But as I got into it, it turns out it's the Space Texans versus Bugs versus the guys from Halo. It was a lot of fun. Like there was some great character moments. There's a lot of unique stuff that's not as hard to comprehend as I thought it was. I always thought it was just some really boring series. And then as I'm looking into some of this Warcraft stuff, and you're finding out, oh, there's all these little there's the goblins, the orcs, there's these people, the panda bears, there's the Lich King, and there's all this really cool looking stuff in it that I never really thought too much about because I always kind of figured, oh, it's just generic fantasy stuff.
Yeah, well, Warcraft is a setting. It's not a story. So you got to have a story worth telling, and that's like anything else. One of the things that I think when it comes to like the video game movie curse, I don't think that there necessarily is one. There's just been a lot of bad video game movies. I don't think it's an intrinsic problem of the video game properties.
I think it's never done intentionally, but it is done out of a place of.
Oh, it's because the people that make the movies,
It seems like
the people that make the movies don't play the games, right? You need to get people that are like dedicated into that thing. Like, did you guys see the Hitman movie?
I did not.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how faithful it was to the game because the game play is something I've not been able to get into, but the movie was fun. It was good. It had a lot of neat nods. It wasn't the most deep thing. It was kind of a dumb action movie, but the game was kind of a dumb action game. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to like make you feel about the human condition. You run around and sneak around and shoot stuff. And we had a believable plot, and it fit in there. It was enjoyable.
I mean, if your video game movie, another thing that happens quite frequently is a lot of video game movies get stuck in development hell. Like, go onto the Wikipedia page for almost any video game, like that's been popular at one point or another, and you'll see a thing where it's like movie, and it's like someone talking about it was supposed to be turned into a movie. Like, what about we got Gears of War has been in movie development hell for 10 years. Halo has been in movie development hell for 10 years. Like, I don't count the Halo animated movies as like, you know, I'm talking about like Steven Spielberg was supposed to direct a Halo movie.
Peter Jackson.
It was fun. The Hitman looks like a fun game. I love Metal Gear Solid, so it looks up my alley. Shut your mouth. Action movies are awesome. I love action movies. I'll say that. I think Gears of War could actually be a fun movie if they try to both take itself not seriously and still be faithful to the source material at the same time. Like, if they try to play on the fact that everything in the Gears universe is so grim and that they're carrying around guns with chainsaws on them. Like, if it's a little self-aware but not too much, that could be a fun movie. I don't see that happening. I see the movie being stuck in development.
That's exactly what they did with Leave a Battle Angel, right? Where they acknowledge some of the silliness, but it's just part of it. It's played straight.
Yeah, it's like Ninja Turtles.
Was a little goofy like that. But because they were dedicated to the premise, it works. And you're just not, at least for me, when I was sitting there, I'm just like, I would watch this game.
Yeah, the other thing about all this is, I was like, to me, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but it is related because it's talking about adapting, like, without going too far, acknowledging yourself without being too jokey about it. Like Ninja Turtles, goofy premise, but in its own world, it makes sense and it's fun to follow. And same with Killer Instinct. You can actually, with the type of world and the way it's delivered to you, you can kind of believe that you'd be a Tibetan monk punching a cybernetic fire-breathing raptor in the face, and it's fun in its own world. It's and you don't feel pulled out like it's constantly going like, "Yep, I'm a velociraptor." I thought
so many.
He was a little distracting with its humor. Like that's kind of an example of it's a little too self-aware.
Yeah.
I never got around to saying my prediction for the MCU. My number prediction, and I am going to say 3. Actually, I'm going to say 4, shifting to 2. I don't think it will ever get to 1 because Disney will pull the plug first. But I think they are reading so much out of what Marvel Comics did to their properties in the last 10 years, and just playing that rule book out, just playing that out. That I just don't. I think that they're going to experience the same kind of loss of sales that Marvel has had. And what's going to end up happening with that is Marvel's going to be like, nope. I mean, Disney is going to say, nope, we're not making those movies anymore. It's costing too much money. And I think that's going to be the end of that. I don't think it's going to get to 1. I think it's going to be 3 down to 1 in terms of quality. That is my prediction.
Yeah. Now talking about Disney and pulling the plug in, one thing I was thinking about all these characters, I don't see them bringing in the direct adaptation of Jane Foster from the comics, where she's, you know, yeah. Because my biggest issue is, as I remember, the first time I read that, and I thought, you know, it's a silly premise, but like, you know, it's kind of like when at the beginning of a story, you don't know exactly all that you're getting into, or sometimes you do. Sometimes if you're reading a Mag's book, or any of those people, like I actually really liked. Well, I mean, Laura Kinney kind of was the only one that actually deserved it out of any of these fancy changes.
It actually makes sense.
Because it was basically his daughter. And it's but the rest of them, you know, Jane Thor, I was thinking, it's like, well, what if like Thor is lost? Like, wouldn't that be a fun story if Thor's lost or something, and the hammer comes to her, and she's got to get it back, and she's got to go find him.
Perhaps he's out with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and then what's coming up next is instead, like, I hope that we don't get, you know, oh, here, I'm going to turn myself in because you are a female hero, and it's great to see other women out here. That made me drop my phone in disbelief when I read that on Marvel Unlimited. Like, I was reading that issue where, oh my gosh, she literally stops like this woman and her husband robbing a bank. I forget what it's the guy with the wrecking ball. What's his name?
That's the Wrecker and Bomber.
Yeah, I know I'm forgetting names left and right lately, but. And she just comes up and she's just like, you know, stop right there. And then it's like, and the villain just has like the stereotype, what this person assumes anti-feminists talk like, and it's just like, oh look, the feminists are taking over. They're ruining everything. I'm like, are you even GD trying right now? And I was ready to. I put my phone down in disbelief, and this was before, like, one of the ultimate moments that made me quit reading comics for a little while in my short tenure of reading them over the past 5 years is when I got to the point where I read Nick Spencer's run on Captain America, because I was so excited. It was going to come out in Marvel Unlimited 3 months after it came out in the stores. So I saw it, I opened it up, and it was immediately, Republicans are bad people. Here's the Ku Klux Klan or the Marvel Universe talking like what I assume Trump supporters talk like. I don't know. I've never actually talked to any of them. And here they're out the border. Look at all these poor, downtrodden people trying to cross the border, which do exist. But let's be honest, they're not the only ones coming in. And it's just also, it was awful. That made me like, I was just like, and then I tried to look it up online, and nobody was like, everyone was defending it. It's like, oh, this is just classic Captain America. If you don't like it, you're part of the problem. No, I'm missing. No, but man, those like, and I guarantee you, they changed Miles from being this boring character that only hipsters liked into being a beloved character across an entire, like, you know, across the entire world. They made him, because they actually gave him a personality. He wasn't just Peter Parker, minimal effort edition. He wasn't that boring of a character. He does have some strong moments in the comics. The idea of Miles Morales himself being a Spider-Man that needs to come in, and Spider-Man's gone, and the opportunity is given to him, but will he? He's got to accept that with great power comes great responsibility, and that's just the way things happen. But what this turned into, where they changed him drastically, and I don't see them not changing Jane Thor. I think they're going to try to make her more interesting and marketable, unless they want to go the Captain Marvel route and make everyone this insufferable character. And I remember I did not say, well, it depends on who you talk to. She's very popular with the type of people that spam dance videos into your mentions. K-pop, like insufferable teenage girls. And
we are now joined by Mr. Higgins. Did I say it?
Yeah, brother, what's going on?
All right. Thanks for coming on, Larry. I'll introduce you to the panel we have so far. I've got Matt McGibson, who's our regular co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, how are you? I actually wanted to say, I've seen you around, and it's to my understanding your campaign's actually going fairly well.
It's a small campaign. Modest goal of $2,000 Canadian, and it's 86% funded with 8 days left.
Nice.
Yeah. See, like, I wanted to congratulate you. I got on Twitter the other day that you were doing very well, and I wanted to congratulate you first and foremost. And I guarantee you that you're going to make it in the next 10 days, because that's the final stretch is where all of these things always come through.
Yeah, it's usually the first week and the last week of a campaign.
Usually the
This is
past.
the sixth campaign I've ran, but the first one on Indiegogo.
Yeah. Now, you want to talk a bit about your project to kind of broadcast what it is to the uninformed masses that we've got here tonight? I'm just kidding. I love you guys.
Sure. Where can I find the YouTube channel, though? I've been trying to scout it out.
Well, I just shared it to you on Facebook.
Oh, you sent me a Facebook link. Okay.
Yeah, just a couple seconds ago.
Don't try to name search him on YouTube. It just brings you up a bunch of some actor that no one's ever heard of.
All right, Matt, I didn't get your Facebook message. It's
Okay. Oh man, I guess he didn't. Okay, hang on a second. Let's try this again. Nope, that's not it. That's
Really, guys, just about get some water real fast, just rehydrate.
I get it. You keep talking about while I am getting this to you. Why don't you tell us who Nyobi is? Let's start.
Well, Nyobi is a 23-year-old Japanese American pop star. You know, you guys just mentioned K-pop, which I thought was kind of comical. But Nyobi is she's J-pop, and also though a superhero, quote unquote. She has the ability of teleportation. Basically, think Portal or Blink from the X-Men, or like the Portal video game. She creates portals and travels from one place to another. The big issue with her, though, is that she finds out that the more she uses her power, the more it kind of wreaks havoc on her body, because the body's not made for these sorts of jumps. And she gets warned that this could give her seizures, maybe paralysis, maybe one day even kill her if she keeps going. So she's kind of got to pick and choose her battles wisely, in fear of doing more harm to herself than good. We've done 4 issues. They were all funded on Kickstarter. The reason why Nyobi #1's on Indiegogo right now is because people have been asking me on Twitter, how they can get a hold of it, and if I had a website for it. And I did at one point. I had a Store Envy website, but no one used it, and I ended up shutting it down. And that was that sort of thing. But after getting a bunch of messages on Twitter, I decided, let's put up an Indiegogo. We'll make it 30 days, limited time here. And we'll put out a special cover, exclusive for Indiegogo. So I recruited Mr. Josh Spencer of Spencer Toons from Australia. And he did a bang-up job on the cover. And we redesigned the inside covers as well. And decided to, just put it out there, see if it had any wings, see if it will fly. And if so, then when we do the brand new Nyobi story, which is half done now, as far as the pages and the art, hopefully, end of August, early September sort of thing, we can put that out to the world.
Well, that's cool. And you guys are so. What is when it comes to Nyobi? She's got these powers. What is the nature of her superheroing? Is it something like she's got an overall mission, or does she just end up in the wrong situation at the wrong time, kind of a thing?
No. So in my world, mutants are basically called genomes. So they stand for genetic anomalies. And Nyobi is a genome, and she discovers this, during the course of her singing career. And so she gets basically recruited by the United Nations, because the government has a handle on these genomes. They track who they are, what they can do, if they're a threat to security, if they're dangerous or not. And so they kind of recruit Nyobi to be a UN public relations sort of representative for genomes because of her celebrity status. So that's kind of how she gets involved with certain things. Plus, being able to teleport is a huge advantage for whoever is on her side, or whatever side that she is on. And not very many genomes in my world can actually teleport, so that's a big deal, but Nyobi's very careful of trying not to be used in the wrong ways.
Now, you just did a Kickstarter a few months ago for Avani, and she's a character out of the same thing, right? The same universe.
Yeah. So what Avani is she was the villain that appears in Nyobi issue 2, and she's a straight up badass. She can manipulate her body in the water. She has deadly claws, and she can spit acid that will burn your face right off. And her and Nyobi, they have a little tussle in number 2, but Avani kind of breaks some things down to Nyobi about the people that she's working for, and basically tells them that she also used to work for them, doing a little bit more dirtier missions, if you will. Basically, she was used as an assassin, and she tells Nyobi that you can't trust them; they're going to use you. And oh, by the way, that sickness that you've been feeling lately, we all kind of have it, and it's no accident. Basically, she's trying to imply that the government has somehow infected them to maybe keep control of them. And so, people kind of dug Avani, so we went ahead and did a spin-off comic, just like a one-shot called Avani Origins #1. And I'm right in the middle of fulfilling it. I sent out about half the packages, and I'm, when we're done here tonight, when I'm just in the off airs or whatever, or gaming it up, I'm going to be making up a bunch of other packages to go out tomorrow. One, of course, is heading all the way to Australia to one Mr. Rhys Lee. No relation to Nyobi Lee, though. You guys know who Rhys is, anyway.
We've met.
Right?
He's a
funny cat, man. So, Indiegogo, yeah, seems to be going pretty good. I'm very happy, though, for Manny of Skunk Girl. He's a good friend of mine that I met here. And Tank Ferret Art was gracious enough to do a wraparound cover for him and put my characters on the cover.
So you of course are very involved. You've got a lot of other friends in the indie community. Have you talked about, or any plans on doing like any shared universe kind of stuff? Or
yeah, let me see. Here, let me throw myself on camera. Don't mind if I have a bad hair day. I just got out of the shower. So yes, I mean, there's been talk about that. It's always sort of talk. But we talked about, because like Nyobi's, she's a bad girl. She's a good girl with a bad girl image, right? We'll put it that way. And there's a few bad girls circling around the community right now. You got Sugar Lightspeed, Little Girl Lethal with Slick Jimmy. You got Skunk Girl. You got Nyobi. Tank is making a character called Scalpel Zero. I think he'll be launching like an Indiegogo in like about 50 days or so. Countdown is on for that. And so, yeah, I mean, the four of us have tossed around the idea of maybe doing some sort of crossover someday. It's just, a lot goes into, doing something like that, like who writes it, who helps, who's going to do the art, and who's paying for what. And, it's coming up with a storyline that all four creators can be happy with and how their characters are represented and portrayed. So it's a lot of logistics, if you will, to work something like that out. But yeah, we definitely have talked about it, and we're all interested in doing it someday.
So yeah, I don't think it's a secret. It's certainly not a secret on the show, but I think you're aware of this too. I'm a big DC fan, especially between 1986 and 2011. So the new 52 kind of broke my heart a little, but with that, of course, yeah, I love the idea of a superhero universe. I love the complexities that are involved in all of that. I've been writing in a universe for our stories for a decade or more, and so it's really fun to see when other people kind of play with each other's properties a little bit and see how that works. That's something I really enjoyed, especially because everybody who's does the superhero universe, there's all these similarities, but everybody's got their own little tick on things and make them a little bit different. And so that's one of the things to kind of see what people do this way and that way. And so that's always something I'm interested in when people talk about that.
Well, I actually want to bring up something before we get anywhere else. Is that a custom Nyobi pop figure behind you?
Holy shit, that guy's got good eyes, man.
You want to see it? Just looking at all the stuff, and yes, I actually love that. I'm actually just looking at all the stuff in your room. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm listening. Because it's just that, yeah. See, who made that for you? Did you make it?
No, I didn't make this. This was made by a guy named Edgar Castro, who I discovered on Facebook, and he does custom pops. Usually, it's like characters that already exist, but maybe the ones that don't have a pop or doing a different take on them. But I just messaged him like, dude, this is incredible stuff. I said, I got a small collection of Funkos. I don't have many, but I got a small collection. And I'm like, be awesome to have my own Funko. So $60 later and a couple of weeks, boom.
That's awesome. Like,
yeah, she's well made, man. It's pretty solid.
See, I'm in the group of people that doesn't actually hate Funko Pops with like every corner of my being. But I actually, because I guess that's kind of my thing is big heads and big eyes. Yeah, like, and that's something that my friend told me is that my characters are like 90% head.
Let me see if I can get a better view on them. I'll tell you something,
in your room.
Yeah, this is kind of where all the magic happens. This is the man cave. This is where I do my game streams, and when I write in here, and when people come over, we hang out in here, obviously. With the Funko Pops, I was kind of one of those guys that never wanted to have a bunch of Funko Pops. And I swore to God I was never going to buy one, right? And so, but then I'm at a convention, and there's some Funko Pops, and then for whatever reason, there was like a Black Widow Funko Pop that I thought was cool, and I bought it. And so you know what happens when you start that? It's like a tattoo, like you get a tattoo, and then
you get one, then your arm is covered in them.
Right, then your arm is covered in them. So then I start seeing a couple other cool ones. Like I got Dark Phoenix up there, Chun-Li from Street Fighter. I play a lot of Overwatch, so I got a bunch of the Overwatch characters. I love the X-Men, so I got a bunch of X-Men up there. There's some cool Star Wars ones.
Yeah, Cuphead ones actually came out really well, in my opinion. The Cuphead pop figures.
I never tried Cuphead, but man, what a hard-looking game that seems to be.
If you have patience, it's well worth it. Like honestly, it is. I say this as someone who absolutely adores the game. It might be up on my favorites list somewhere, but yeah, it's a style over substance game, and that says something only because the actual game itself is so good. Like it is style because they went the extra mile, and every single frame of it is hand drawn and redrawn several times over. Like there's beta footage that's drastically different from how the final.
If you're an older guy, like I'm sure, well, at least I am. I'm 44 years old, so I remember, Woody Woodpecker and Bugs Bunny and all this sorts of stuff, and it's certainly got that sort of vibe to it. Like sort of like that golden age of cartoons, stuff that these young kids today may never even know about.
Yeah, my friend here is me and my friend here are just like, whoa, check it out. He's got like this Metallica stuff. He's got like. Yeah, Iron Maiden. You got like all this stuff back here.
So yeah, there's okay. So where those flags are right there, underneath those flags are long boxes of comic books. So that's kind of what's holding everything up.
Yeah, my friend is he's like, yeah, this guy got on me. It's like because he's he's a big Metallica fan. He's really digging your like when you like everything got interesting. Not to say because I am very interested in AOB and having you on tonight, thank you so much. But everything got went up to 11 when you turned the camera on.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can tell you some of the things that are in here, but I mean, yeah, I'm a big Metallica fan as well. I've seen them in concert twice. Once for the Justice for All tour, and then once they were in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I went with a group of people from work there, and they were playing with. It was like the summer San Antonio tour. And it was like Limp Bizkit, Mudvayne, Deftones. Linkin Park and Metallica. So that was a damn good concert, man. And I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. Iron Maiden is probably one of the first metal bands I really got into, and it was all because of the cover art that you would see on Iron Maiden albums, right? Eddie, like Live After Death and stuff like that. And so I got into it because of the cover art, and the music was just as good. But the cover art, of course, was done by a guy named Derek Riggs, who was just phenomenal, Then I got some Lady Death stuff because I'm a big fan of Brian Pulido. So I got some Jamie Tyndall Lady Death metal prints up there. I don't know if you can see those. And I got comic books all over the place. There's some stuff in slabs from CBC. There's some of my own stuff. There's some original artwork that I got out over here that were done on sketch covers by a variety of people, all the way up from the some couple high level pros down to local artists sort of vibe. Over there, what you can't see is a big mess. So over here is a bunch of mailers that I got for Avani. There's T-shirts over there that here, I'll show you one of the T-shirts. So we got these T-shirts on the Indiegogo. So these are the Nyobi Chibi T-shirts, and these are done by a company called Pop Art Gear. And these guys specialize in doing T-shirts for independent comic books. So they work with like Billy Tucci, Joseph Michael Linzer, who used to do like Dawn, Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc., like a bunch of people like that. And so this is the first ever licensing deal we ever made for Nyobi. So I'm on like a 3-year sort of licensing contract for them.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I didn't even know there were people at that level. I figured that you just had to go directly to like Teespring or whatever. Was it T-Shark? Whatever the shark. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we had T-shirts before, but we were just kind of making them locally, you know, and they weren't that great of quality. This guy contacted me just kind of out of the blue. He's like, hey, you know, I've been seeing your stuff around. I'm very interested in Nyobi. You know, I'd like to buy a copy. And, you know, here's a link to my site if you're ever interested in T-shirts. And I went over to the T-shirts and I was like, oh, man, this is pretty cool. But I wasn't sure if he was legit or not. So I contacted Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc. because I trust Tom. He does books like Penny for Your Soul and Critter and Ursa Minor and stuff like that. He used to be partners with Aspen Comics with Michael Turner back in the day. So, you know, he knows what it's like to have books on the shelf and be in diamond. Now he does Kickstarters, like 30, 40 grand Kickstarters. But anyway, I contacted him. I'm like, is the dude legit? And he's like, oh, yeah, totally legit. Work with them. So, boom, Nyobi shirts. And they're really great quality, too. These are like silk screen. So it's not like a print that's heated on. This is right in the material. So it lasts for a pretty long time.
That's nice because, like, a lot of iron-on shirts tend to last, like, one trip through the wash.
Well, yeah, no, for sure, right? And I didn't want it to be something that someone has for like 3 months and then it all starts to kind of, you know, fade or wear off. So... you know, they're a little bit expensive. I mean, they're like $30, but they got something on the front and something on the back. But we actually made them a little bit cheaper because I took off the back piece, so that dropped the price by $5. So they're $25 now on the site. But every now and then they'll drop me a code, and I can give off the code, and it'll be like 20% off shirts or whatever, stuff like that.
Now, is merchandising something like some people kind of think about it as like a point that you've made it somewhere? It's like, I want to be able, like, I'll know it when I've seen my character made into this or that, or I've seen the story adapted to this. Like, what is it? What is the kind of the goal for you? What is the Avengers end game?
Oh, are we talking what I realistically think will happen, or what I, you know, in my wildest dreams?
In your wild, let's do a little bit of both. Let's do one for realistic, and don't be like say that as an excuse for being like overly negative. You know, some people go like, "Oh, I'm a realist." I expect my characters to be in the trash. You know, don't be like that. You know, be realistic and then do your wildest dreams.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing with the realistic part. You know, a lot of people get into this and they think that they're going to become big right away, or at least that's the hope that, you know, something blows up and they're the next, you know, big thing. I see a lot of people, they'll do their first issue. It doesn't go quite as well as they hope. And then you never see a second issue from them, sort of thing. I operate with the understanding that this is a grind, right? Like there is nothing easy about making comic books. I've done this now for 6 years, so I'm still a noob at this. But you know, 6 years is a good little bit of experience. You know, with 5 Kickstarter campaigns. My actual, you know, real goal is to one day get Nyobi published and on the shelves, you know, in comic book stores somehow, you know, but I don't think the product is there yet. You know what I mean? So we've been making levels up as we go. We just recently got a new artist named Samir. He's working on a new book right now, and I can show you some pages for that in a little bit here, so you guys can check out the new art style. We also have Paul Green, who's like famous for doing Zenoscope Grim Fairy Tale covers. Really sexy sort of style. A lot of people compare him to say like J. Scott Campbell, if you will.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen those at the store actually.
Right. And then you have Steph Wilson, who has a style very similar to that of Dan Mendoza. And Steph is becoming, starting to become a big deal in indie scene, at least on what I see on Facebook and Kickstarters, with doing covers for Big Dog Inc. and whatnot. So Steph Wilson is going to be doing a variant as well. And then my guy that I've been using for the last 4 years is RB White. He's done covers again for Zenoscope, and he's done covers for Action Lab Comics. So if you guys have heard of like Zombie Tramp and Dollface and Vamp Lady, he's done covers for those.
Oh, that's actually. I think it was kind of funny. Like I had to explain to my brother the other day, or no, this was actually a while back. I took him out to this really massive comic store out in Maryland called Third Eye Comics. And I took my brother out there with me at one point, and he saw Zombie Tramp, and he was just like, Matthew, explain what's going on here. Why are they so big? And I was just like, it's Zombie Tramp, and he's like, it's actually called Zombie Tramp. You're not making that up. I'm like, yeah. He seemed to be really enthralled and amused by, like, it's like, oh, that's actually kind of funny.
Well, it is kind of funny. If anyone's ever read it,
I've heard it. I've heard it's actually a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book, and Dan Mendoza made it a great book. His style was what captivated me to Zombie Tramp, and some of those older Zombie Tramps, especially when it first came out. If you're into speculation and all, like say you buy and trade and sell on eBay, you can get some good money for those Zombie Tramps if you have the older one.
I had a recent situation where like I knew I wasn't going to sell it, but I know that like I saw that Bigfoot bill, which I backed back when it was $25. Is like I remember seeing someone was selling there for like $75, so it's tripled in price.
Yeah, and I expect that to be the case with the majority of the comic books that were on Indiegogo at that time, because no matter how you slice it and dice it, even at, let's say you're Cyber Frog, right, and you've done 20,000 copies, that's still a relatively low print run, and so comic books that have like a low print run, tend to go up in value because obviously the reason because they're rare, right? That's why comic books go up in value. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see like what you told me about Bigfoot Bill. That's not a surprise at all. I don't own it, but a friend of mine bought it and he brought it over to the house. And what a gorgeous book that was. I mean, top to bottom production quality. Doug Tenable basically said this is how it's done. You know what I mean? And I regret not backing it.
Well, I mean, kind of all the books I backed, like I think what I've received 2 of them. And his is the only one that's been directly on time. And I'm not saying that to put people down, but more as a compliment to the fact that Doug got it done. Yeah. Like, he put that out $25, and he also gave you a lot of bang for the buck too, because I don't know what the situation is with it now and I don't blame him because of what's happening with the Earthworm Jim deal that he just got back. Like, yeah, if you didn't know that, he's back to working on Earthworm Jim again. Yeah, after all the licensing BS for years. And
I think he got the rights back to Earthworm Jim.
Well, really? Wasn't it EA who had it? Like the greediest.
Yeah, what it is he's licensing them, and so he can do what he wants with the property. But like I think EA gets a cut.
Okay.
Okay, that's but the fact that like that's not a story you ever expected to hear. It's such a sad thing if you ever hear him talk about it. Doug is a very sullen guy. He's kind of a.
It's actually funny because he was talking about it about 9 months ago on his stream. I was watching, and he was talking about that he didn't expect to be able to get them back, but who knows what the future holds. And I think that because I think he was able to negotiate it because they wanted the original team back for the game, because they're doing a new Earthworm Jim game for the new Intellivision or whatever it is. And so they wanted the whole original team back. And I think part of his is like, I'll come make the game, but let's negotiate this a little. And I think that's how he was able to get the rights for the comic.
I was amazed by all that. And I think they kind of saw how well he was doing and how much of a demand there was for him to do work with Bigfoot Bill, and that kind of let him back. But I don't exactly blame him for what happened with like Bigfoot Bill, because he wanted to make a video game in the style of Earthworm Jim, but with Bill instead. And that was going to be part of, if you backed the original book, then you were going to get that. But I think that, because even before Bigfoot Bill even came out, he must have been been made aware of what was going on with Jim. So now he's got his old character back, and I'm gonna guess that that's gonna be a part of the deal that just can't be fulfilled for now, because now he's trying to get a book like a Earthworm Jim book funded, and he's trying to get that out delivered. Hey, Dan, if you didn't hear, he broke the record. He beat Ethan. He's now the largest. Well, I mean, Ethan still has made more money technically because Ethan has done multiple reopened campaigns for variant. Yeah, he's done 3 different reopenings, all of them labeled "the last chance you'll ever get." And Doug actually beat him out and got to over $700,000 for Earthworm Jim. Yeah, what's funny about that is way back, one of the first times I met you, Rhys, when we were in Donald DeLay's chat room, or in his live stream chat, is I remember Donald saying, he's like, quote me on this because when it happens, you'll I'll tell you I was right. If Doug ever gets the rights back to Jim and crowdfunded a Earthworm Jim book, I guarantee you he would beat Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the thing you got to remember because I just looked it up. It's so far, and it's in demand right now, so it's only going to go up. So far, it's $754,257 for Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, like how Doug has been doing well for himself over the past couple of years with his own projects and such. But the fact that, it's like Richard. Like the fact that Richard went from this guy and he still does buy it, even though he's several $100,000, rolling in money. Like he's still buying $9 shoes. And, he went from this guy recording videos in his car, like these really low quality videos. And a lot of them still are he doesn't have any reason to make them any better. But, these low quality videos discussing the comic book industry, like asking questions that a lot of people had but were afraid to say anything. And because then they get attacked in a lot of comic forums. Like I said, a lot of comic forums kicked people out who questioned these stupid things. It's just we don't need people like you who are calling this, really apparent pandering out for what it is.
Well, and one of the things to look at with the issues too is people got to remember that when people are fulfilling these, the money that's spent, you don't have profit until all those books are out the door. One thing Star also asks about what was going on with the refunds for Bigfoot Bill.
I can explain that in the.
Yeah, well, I can too. Doug's not good at math, and he miscounted the number of sketchbooks that he needed he was $200 short from the math added onto that. And so when he had them printed, he missed the count by 200, and then he couldn't take it back to the printer because Jostens had already, because the Jostens, the company that makes the yearbooks and all the graduation stuff, is who actually printed and bound Bigfoot Bill, and they had already moved into production for all of their school stuffs. Their contracts were full up. And so there was it's not a replicable.
But the big thing here that people will not tell you, a lot of people who are upset with him, is that he did try to make it up to them. He did say, look, I know that I can't get this back to you, but I'm willing to offer refunds and a digital copy of the book as a means of apology. And for some people, that wasn't good enough, and they got really pissy. Yeah. And he tried to fix it with them. They try to make it out like he's Adolf Hitler and he's stealing your money. They're just nasty. Doug has just been getting a lot of unnecessary heat from people, and I'm willing to. Yeah, it's not worth it. Twitter was imagine the worst thing. Imagine if Adolf Hitler had genital warts, and his left testicle made his only testicle made a social media app.
Well, you guys bring up a lot of good points, in terms of fulfillment, right? Fulfillment's a big, big, huge part of whether you're going to get return backers or not. So, it's not uncommon for someone to be late, right? For instance, Avani is a month late. Now, a month late in independent comic books actually means you're pretty much on time.
Yeah, look at it in the early days, right? They were simply 6 months late with getting to the stores.
Right. So, in terms of being 3 months late, that's when I start, say if I back, an Indiegogo or Kickstarter and someone's 3 months late, I might, especially if they haven't updated, right? That's another big thing. If you're going to be late or something like that, or something's not going exactly as planned, just let the people know. Usually 9 times out of 10, they'll accept the truth. So I'll start, I'll message at 3 months late, at 6 months late. Now I'm getting a little worried, and then at a year late, I think that's, a little bit too long, especially, some creators have a habit of ghosting the backers because they have nothing to tell them, right? Or nothing, positive to relate to them. So they don't say anything, as opposed to just kind of keeping people apprised and up to date. And with someone like Doug, with being 200 copies short, but that sucks. But that's what happens when you're trying to micromanage everything at once, right? Especially when you're getting the numbers and backers that Doug gets, I can see how easy it could be maybe to get something a little wrong. And to his credit, he did try to go ahead and fix that.
And make it up to people. Yeah, like
some people just.
I'm not sure why he just couldn't have those 200 books made and get them out. I'm not sure what was going on there, but at least he still tried to make it right,
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of stands out to me the most is that he when he tried to fix it, he couldn't. But people were just like saying, "I paid for this." He's like, "I know," and if I'm doing the right thing, I'm saying, I can't deliver it to you. You can either take this option, and I can. It's like if you want, I can refund you the money. And
right. Everybody who ordered the book, just the main comic book, got that. So when he was refunding people's money, they were basically getting a free copy of Bigfoot Bill,
and then like a digital version of the sketch as well.
Right. So it's like, you get that for free. There's at that point, and not to litigate things too much, but there's only so much you can do. You can't return back time. None of us are Christopher Reeve Superman, right? So we can't unkill Lois. So that's at a certain point there just comes to it. And I know, like Larry, you've done fulfillment a bunch, several times.
Doing it right now.
And we're at the point right now where we're with our expositioner, we're 5 days away from the end of our campaign, and if we make up that last $200, then we're in a place where we can fulfill at that point too. So hopefully that comes together. But if we are able to get that, we'll be in the fulfillment game too. So and we've got a Christmas fulfillment. So
well, I'll tell you what I use when I ship those packages out. Is I used to let me get one. I used to send these out in bubble envelopes, right? You would the way you would get like a comic book from eBay. Usually they'll put them in a bubble envelope with 2 pieces of cardboard and the comic book sitting in the middle so it doesn't get bent, right? When you do it that way, you're cutting a lot of freaking cardboard, man. You know what I mean? And so like for 4 campaigns, dude, I did nothing but cut boxes and try and fit everything together. Then finally, I got smart and said, you know what? I'm just going to order some mail supplies ahead of time and end up getting these here. So it's kind of like a Gemini mailer. And, you put your comics in the center here or whatever prints you got, maybe wrapped up in some, bubble wrap, tape it nice and secure, and then fold this sucker into a box. You know what I mean? And so this here keeps your comic book from getting bent or crushed in the mail. Because the mailman, when they deliver your comic, I had a comic book come rolled up and slammed in my mailbox. You know what I mean? Because no one bothered to use cardboard or package their stuff properly. They're just trying to do whatever the cheapest shipping is. But when you fold this together, you get a box like this. Very solid, very good. And you got everything secured right
in. Is that one of those Gemini mailers that I've been hearing about?
Not exactly Gemini mailer. It's a little bit bigger than the average Gemini mailer, like for comic books. It's more magazine size, but that's to accommodate like some of the prints and stuff that will be going in here, right? And I got 100 of these for $100. So, if I was buying the envelope and cutting the cardboard and all that stuff, that actually probably would have been more for supplies.
Oh, yeah. You got your time in there. Because your time is worth something. So,
yeah, I just ordered those online. 3 days later, I went to the Staples store, picked them up, and it's made my life easier, man. It's the first time I've used them. And so I'm able to make packages quicker, and they cost the same amount to mail. Like here in Canada, they kind of charge you by weight. And so, but yeah, they don't seem to be that any more expensive than what I was doing before. So I recommend those.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we're looking at doing a mailer too when we get ours, because pretty much everything we're looking at is going to fit about comic book size, because even our prints we're going to do we're doing folded posters. I mean, pinup style prints, so they'll fit in there for that. So we're doing it kind of low key on the posters there, but we're because I don't know. I have a part of why I pitched it to the team that way is I have a fond memories of, you know, the Wizard comics, and you get them and they'd be poly bagged and you open it up and you fold it out and there you have your pinup poster of, you know, the X-Men or Gen 13 or whatever. And so we're trying to get some of that feeling with ours, and even our trading cards they'll fit that. So.
And you know, we're gonna get you. You know, we're gonna return the favor here and get you to come over to Rebel Comics, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
You know, this is the first time I think I've ever like seen you sort of face to face, sir. If you know what I mean. Like, I didn't know you guys went on camera. I'm like, do I go on camera? Do I not go on camera? How does it work? Because a lot of people don't.
I do, because because I caution to the winds, and also my picture's been online, so it's not like people can't find it anyway.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with me. You know, I've been doing this for a while now, and I've been doing YouTube for a good like 6 years off and on, and I've always just been on camera. You know, I never had a reason to be scared of not to be, you know.
Well, when people talk about like they're afraid of being doxxed or whatever, I just like to get ahead of the game and be just like, I'm in Scotts Bluff, come find me.
My brother kind of pointed it out. It's like if you're actually like avidly trying with like minimal bits of information, it's not that hard to find people.
No, it's not.
I mean,
you know, in regards to doxing, that was never a thing when I started Nyobi. You know, back in 2014, you didn't go on YouTube and scared of being doxed. I don't even know if that was a word then. Nowadays, 2019, fast forward, it's a little different. But you know, since I've been out there for 6 years, my Facebook is public. You know, everyone can go to my Twitter and see my photos from conventions and stuff. A little hard to hide who I am now, anyway. You know.
Yeah, I mean, big part of the social networking thing is to tie what you do in the real world, what you do online anyway. So if I'm going to cons and I'm running the table, people are going to find out what I look like.
That's just it, right? It depends on how involved, you know, like if you're getting into comic books and you're worried about being doxxed, I don't know what to tell you, because part of being in comic books, you know, is making the rounds, you know, doing some cons, going to some shops, you know, trying to get your book everywhere that you can. Now, some people are cool with just doing online sales. You know what I mean? They're cool with, I'm just going to do my Indiegogo, ship out my book, maybe, you know, give it to a few friends and family or whatever the case may be. Some people are fine with that. But, you know, I mean, every piece of advice that I've ever gotten from anyone in the industry is you got to make the rounds. You know, even if you don't sell much or even if you don't break even, you got to meet people. You got to shake some hands. You know, you got to, you know, submit a few comics. You got to have a few conversations. You got to make some friends. It's, you know, when they say that the comic book industry is very small and very tight knit, there's no lie to that. You know what I mean? But the problem with the industry right now is kind of where I fall into play is that it does lean really heavily to the left right now. And, you know, if you don't agree with that sort of ideology, it's tougher, right? And so, you know, I've been called out for things that I don't necessarily agree with in mainstream comic books. You know, I've been critical of mainstream comic books before I even heard of what, you know, the Comicsgate was. You know, I would go on my Facebook and bitch about why are these, you know, great looking covers getting censored and banned and, you know, stuff like that. This is like when the censorship of art really started, say in 2014, 15, because I've always been a guy, obviously by the covers of my book, that kind of like, you know, sexy art. You know, I used to collect like Witchblade and Lady Death and, you know, Evangeline. You know, you talked about Gen 13, you know, let's add Danger Girl to the list and, you know, stuff like that, you know, I was heavy into, right? And so then you see sort of like, now if you do a cover like that, you're now labeled a misogynist or a sexist. And I had sort of like these kind of third wave feminism types come after me about the Nyobi covers, which just kind of turned my crank a little more. Oh yeah, if you think that's too sexy, wait till you see the next one. You know, that sort of attitude.
To an extent, like one or you know, saying, "Oh, you don't like that, do you?" Like, I think trolling them is good. The only issue is when it goes too far and you do something so provocative that it's just like going to make everyone think poorly of you, even the people that I don't see this happening with you, but like I'm trying to remember some recent incident where this had happened where somebody was I think it was Mike Miller making he made so he said, "Oh, everyone calls me a Nazi, so I think I'm just gonna go call my burning of a piece of artwork I do my final solution." And I'm just like, that might be just giving them extra fuel.
Well, it really is just a small few that seem to have sort of like the loudest voices. You know, when I've been to cons, more girls bought Nyobi than men. That's just a simple fact. You know, some girls like that style of art. You know, I used to do a program with a girl named Kat, not the Kat in this community, but a different Kat ages ago, and she loved like Starfire and the sexy Starfire covers and J. Scott Campbell. She was in love with J. Scott. You know, like some girls like that. You know, but you just have some people that are a little bit uptight. You know, and they got their way of thinking, and that's okay. My philosophy is this on comic books: there is room on the shelf for everything, right? There is something for everything. And so, those types who may not like my style of book, there's books for them out there.
I think that's especially true in the world of the internet, right? Because we have virtual stores. So, like each store, physical store, if they curate their shop to their customers, that's great, but everybody can find what they want online. You can get, pick it up on Amazon, pick it up on eBay, pick it up on stores. And so it's such a wide net, the internet, that I don't see why people get huffy that a thing exists. Now, I understand, because I'm one of these guys where, if you write Batman out of character, you're going to make me mad. I cut my teeth on Batman. I know this character. So I'm going to get, I get mad at Tom King for misusing, Bruce Wayne. I think that's a little bit different than saying, Tom King's, super soft man comics. So I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. They just shouldn't be Batman.
Yeah, and you don't even have to go that far to find something. I mean, Marvel and DC have really sort of made turns in the way of their storytelling and what they put on the shelf. Marvel is, very diverse now. And so diversity is your thing and representation is your thing. I mean, you don't have to go far to find it, So I don't see why the independent comic books need to be attacked for providing an alternative and something different to what the mainstream is pumping out right now.
Yeah. Right.
What I was just thinking about is, and you're talking about there's room for everything on the shelf. I was thinking about that, and also there's room for everybody. Like I always think, if there's room for Alan Moore to be one of the biggest names in comics, a guy who lives like in his own beard, believes he practices like magic, worships a dead religion, all these other things, and we're just supposed to act like, this is the smartest guy in the universe. If there's room for Alan Moore, there's room for Doug TenNapel.
I would agree with that entirely, but you're saying Alan Moore lives in his own beard.
He does. Somebody, when the new Watchmen TV show got announced and it was revealed to be what it is, someone had said Alan Moore. It's like if Alan Moore were dead, he'd be rolling in his grave. And it's like someone responds, he's rolling in his cave, and then someone responds, he's rolling in his beard.
Oh my God! I couldn't maintain anymore. That just cracked me up.
Well, the good thing I think is with stuff like this is that everything is going to have a breaking point, even that, you know what I mean? And I think just from what I've been seeing lately, just in the headlines and just people's attitudes that I know on social media, just coming from I would consider normal people, you know what I mean? In the sense of they're not in the industry or they're not trying to be in the industry, they're just a fan or they're just, checking things out. A lot of them are starting to not like, all the force and agenda pushing that is going on for the sake of just pushing an agenda. I don't mind something being, a little controversial or something that makes you think.
24/7 controversy is not good for anybody.
And people and the way that this call out culture and culture war is developing. People are getting really tired of that too. They're getting really tired of all these kind of fake call outs and everyone being called a sexist and a racist and a Nazi. Every time someone has a difference of opinion with someone else, these are the labels now I just got all political, but these are the labels now that people immediately throw around. And so these labels, quite honestly, kind of mean nothing now because they're so overused. And I think people are starting to see that. And I think people are starting to, what I call the real wake up, you know what I mean? Where people are really starting to wake up and go, hey, you know what? Maybe these guys are, a little bit too far on the right, but man, you guys are kind of really far on the left. like where can we meet in the middle here somewhere, you know? And
whatever just happened to, I mean, I look at the stories from a decade ago, they're claiming, no, this is the same thing we're putting out. Like, these stories are the same thing. You just grew up. And I'm looking at the stories in the games and everything from a decade ago, and
Absolutely
none of this is the same. Like, it doesn't feel like these characters, like, they were, like, they say, oh, well, these minority characters think this well. Like, there were a lot of great minority characters. Some of the best written ones in all, like, in any stories I've read were written before this culture war stuff. And
in regards to comic books in particular, the best way to handle this, and I think, you know, we said this a lot throughout the years, is vote with your wallet. You know, if you don't like something, don't buy it. You know, eventually these businesses will have to realize, hey, this isn't selling. We need to look at the real reasons why. And if they keep pushing, you know, content and products that don't sell, well, that's their loss. You know, I mean, they're going to take the bullet for that at some point. You know, right now, the MCU movies are doing phenomenal, but that's because they were using, you know, what brought them to the dance, you know, characters that were great and iconic and people knew. Now they're kind of diving into a different sort of realm where they're introducing some of their newer characters. And I don't know how well those are going to take. And you know, and there seems to be a lot of, in my opinion, agenda pushing coming up. I'm not sure how well that's going to be received. Will these movies do well? Probably. But I think we're going to see a dip, though. You know, I think, you know, when we talk about the superhero movie sort of bubble bursting, we might get that bubble starting to look pretty tight. You know, like.
Yeah, and I actually have a theory. People talk about being tired of superhero movies, but I actually don't think it's superhero movies. I think people are starting to sense this agenda push, and that's our theory. I think people are starting to get a feel that it's starting to happen a little bit. Because it creeped into like Thor Ragnarok had just a little bit of that in there, and Endgame has I think a bunch of it in there. I think nostalgia was a big push for Endgame, and I think that people are starting to feel it, and I think they're going to blame it on a superhero bubble bursting. But I don't think it's superheroes. I think that we're betraying what superheroes are, because what they are is that they're a mythology. And when you betray the premises of a mythology, the mythology becomes meaningless. And that's what we're going to see is by trying to make this a collectivist, you know, left wing agenda machine. It's going to stop being the mythology that it needs to be, and I think people are gonna nope out of it. They're not going to put down their money to be lied to. I really, because that's my opinion about it, but.
Well, and that's why in the independent comic books, I think crowdfunding are really starting to flare up, you know, to do well, because you're looking for that alternative. I mean, you know, we talked about it earlier. They're out there, you know, they're out there. They're on Kickstarter. They're on Indiegogo. You know, you mentioned Amazon. You know, a lot of people have their own web stores. I mean, you know, let's look at, you know, Brian Pulido from Lady Death as an example of someone who's done really well for himself on Kickstarter. You know, every time he does a book, which is seemingly every 2 months now, is easily a $300,000 campaign, if not more. You know, he was on the grand stage at San Diego Comic-Con talking about crowdfunding comics, right up there with Doug TenNapel. You know, you mentioned Doug earlier. You know,
I got so much respect for Pulido and the work he's put in. I'm not a Lady Death fan. I don't really care for the universe too much, but I have been inspired by the hustle that guy has brought for the last 25 years. In fact, like I actually got a chance to meet him in Cheyenne at the Comic-Con here a few years ago, and I tabled in the row behind him, so like he was like across behind my shoulder the whole time. And when he was wrapping up, I came over and I said, "This is weird, but I read you in Wizard in 1994, and you're part of the reason that I self-publish books." Because he did this thing. He said, "Self-publishing is insane" was the name of the article. And he's like, "I remember that article," and I was like, "Yes, you're talking about the trials, the tribulations, and the troubles, and the payoff, and you're an inspiration with the hustle that you put into books, and that you're a big part of the reason why that we got into the indie game, and I want to thank you for the hustle you put behind stuff." And I just, like I said, he's just the fact that he has never given up, even when chaos, like, you know, took its nosedive, and that he just picked himself up off the ground and said, well, let's reinvent this. And he's been going at it hard ever since. That guy's.
I mean, that what you just said right there kind of brings us all the way back around to the very first question you asked me, which was, where do I see myself in the future, kind of, realistically and dream-wise? Well, dream-wise, it's him, right? That's what I want Nyobi to be. You know what I mean? In the dream world, if I won the lottery, sort of 1 in a million shot. Realistically is just to see how far I can grow it. Every time we do a Kickstarter, it goes up, a bit, right? First time we did it was like 2,100. Second time we did it was like 2,600. Second time we did it, or third time we did it was like 3,200. The fourth time was $4,000. You know what I mean? So as long as there's growth and we continue to make the comic book better and better and better, I'm just happy with that. I told people, if I never got any further in comic books, I'm already happy, because at least I can go out and say I done it and I tried it, and I got, books to show for it, and I got memories of it and good times already. So I'm already happy, where I am. And so, realistically, just any growth is growth. You have someone in the chat talking about doing a small run. I do a very small run. I kind of print what I need. I have a few extras for sale. If I need any more, I'll go have them made. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a small run. Keeping it small and tight. As you build your game and you work on your experience, and you get that stuff out there.
And that's one thing where we've looked at too, is like the big guys like Tenable, Miller, those guys. They're making collector's items and they know it, so they want a fixed number, because that's going to affect investors down the road. Because you got people that buy a Bigfoot build book knowing they're going to put 25 down and they know they're going to get 50 out of it on eBay, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of a thing. But like where I'm at, and I'm sure where you're at too, I have no interest in flooding the market. I don't care about flooding the market, because the value of my book's $4, right? So or whatever. So I know that's what it's going to be worth resale at, or less. So as many as we'll just keep printing them until people stop buying that issue.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at with it.
Print on demand is very, very cool thing. The team of Rags have utilized that very well.
Oh yeah, and they've got a great story with their book too. So show us what we've got there with you on your screen.
Well, so this here is a page from the brand new book. This isn't what's on Indiegogo. This is what's coming next. And so this is Nyobi facing down a riot squad of policemen here.
Man, I tell you what, your guys' line work is super bold. I love that.
Yeah, and this is going to be full color too. That's the plan. Previous books that we've done were all in black and white with gray tones. So this is what I talk about. It's like sort of leveling up. The next stage for us to level up is actually start producing in color. And the only reason why we never did it before was just it was very expensive to do so. Expensive to hire the colorists and expensive to print in color. But this is the next evolution of Nyobi, is to take her out of black and white and kind of go full color here.
Yeah, I know with our Larry got kicked. What the heck?
He's been gone for. Oh wait. He just got.
Yeah, Darby said he got kicked too. Something on the connection or something.
Well, Darby said he had to go do homework anyway, so didn't mind. But
yeah,
let's find out what happened to him. Let's find out what happened to.
So I'm going to go ahead and jump on over to Twitter and see if I can find out what's going on here.
Ladies, we had technical difficulties, but
you're back. Oh, good.
I meant to close out the picture to show you something else, but I ended up closing out the whole Hangout window.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, I don't know what. But I tell you what, we'll go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and screen share the campaign quick.
Sure.
So we can go and let me key that up here because I want people to know what your levels are and everything. So we'll go ahead and go with that.
Now, while you do that, I'll show you the Paul Green variant cover for the new book. Let's see here.
Well, I go. So, what you're looking at. So here is the Indiegogo page for the Nyobi thing, and you see we've got In American, they're looking for 115.19 in US dollars, and that means you're just about $200 short.
Yeah.
Goal, which is funny because that's the same way the difference we are at the moment, I believe.
How many days do you have left, bro?
We've got till Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So that's what, like 5 days.
Yeah. Which, I mean, $200 in 5 days, it's doable. So here's hoping. But
yeah, it's kind of like me. You know, you're starting to get down to the wire. You know.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I hope it funds. If it doesn't fund, you know, that's okay. At least I can say, you know, I gave Indiegogo a shot and gave it a try. My book's a little bit different than what people are used to seeing on Indiegogo, to be honest with you. I mean, people, you know, are used to seeing things like Bigfoot Bill and nice, big, thick sort of graphic novel sort of books. Nyobi, you know, isn't that at all. You know, it's 44 pages. It's about the size of like a Marvel annual. You remember the old Marvel annuals you used to get this year? That were kind of a little extra thick. So it's that size. And so it's also in black and white. And a lot of people are kind of used to, I think, color artwork in Indiegogo.
So you're asking $7 for the exclusive cover for a 44-page book.
Yes, sir.
That's a pretty good price for an indie. You're not you couldn't buy a DC book for $7.
Yeah, see, I actually, you know, you've made this very accessible too. Like, you know, I might have to get up now. What kind of artwork? You know, you showed what's coming in the future. What kind of artwork can we expect from the inside of the book?
Scroll down there, Matt. We got a couple pages that are there.
There we go. Oh my goodness, that.
Oh yeah,
wonderful.
You got my attention with the creepy shadow guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Who's the artist? Is it you?
No, God, I wish. No, this artist is he's just a local guy here in my city named David Coates. He did the first one. The art in issue 2, 3, and 4 were done by a different fellow named Steve Boyu, who's a French-Canadian artist. I think the art, not to put Steve down, but I think the art was a little bit stronger in number 1 than the other 3. That's why I'm kind of only releasing number 1 right now, like the Indiegogo. This is a reprint, obviously, but this is the book that we did like 5 years ago. But people seem to want it, so the idea was put it on Indiegogo, do a special cover for Indiegogo, so it's unique in that way. So only Indiegogo backers could get that cover. And just see again if anyone's interested in seeing her story sort of continue here. But if not, let's say Indiegogo doesn't fulfill or doesn't fund. I've had a happy home on Kickstarter and have no plans to stop being on Kickstarter either. So
you got it's for a print book you're looking $7. It's US, right? I don't know what that comes to in Canadian, but I'm in America, so that's what I care about. And you said you're looking at $10 for shipping, right?
Yeah. I mean, in Canada, it's a little bit more expensive. I mean, I'm sure you guys know about international shipping, right? So yeah, it costs us a couple extra bucks more to get it down to you, but try our best to do it.
And you have copies of the first printing that are left, and you're asking for 10 for those.
Yeah, they're a little rare. I don't see us making any more of these unless there's a kind of huge demand for them. The book is 5 years old now, and I'm really focused on, the kind of soft reboot of Nyobi that we're doing now.
So when you say a soft reboot, what's that all going to entail? Is it just additional material or?
Well, it's just the idea of when you have a piece of clay and you kind of mold it for the first time and you like what you've done, but it could be better. That's kind of, where I'm at with Nyobi. Now that I got like 5-6 years underneath my belt and I put together, a pretty solid team, I think I can kind of repackage it, with solid artwork in color and just kind of do it in mini series, right? So the new book is going to be a 2-part mini series. And then after that, we'll probably do a 3-issue mini series, and kind of keep the stories contained, start, middle, finish with each.
Right. I love that. That's actually
initially this was supposed to be an ongoing series, and the problem with doing an ongoing series in independent comic books when everyone's got a day job and a family and a life and that sort of thing is it takes very long to produce them and make them, right? So when you're only making a comic book maybe once or twice a year, it's really hard to keep, you know, readers interested in an ongoing series because they're going to forget what's going on. You know, after 6 months of not seeing a new issue, you know, they're on to other things. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's a really good model for the online market, is looking at limited contained series because of the production time.
Right.
Unless you're somebody like a Tenaple, who say, okay, every twice a year I'm going to be putting out a book, or like Tim Lim, right? He's got 3 series that they're working on, but he's got the production out there. I mean, they were talking in the chat earlier about how many books people have done in a limited amount of time. In the last 12 months, Tim Lim's put out 4. So he's got 2 Trump books. He's got 3 Trump books, because he's got the My Hero Macadamia, and the sequel to that, and Space Force, and and Black Hops. He's a machine for having a regular day job. That guy can draw like you wouldn't like.
Wait, art isn't his career?
No, he's a medical professional.
What the hell? What is this guy made of? This is
he's made of energy and rabbits, I think.
Now, we are actually running a little over here, but I think I just sold my friend on this book. Oh yeah, like right here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see where you're taking the property. I've been really interested, and I've been meaning to just ask you in the chats a little bit more about Nyobi as a character. I've been really curious about it, and so when I decided, hey, I'm going to just see if Larry will come on, I decided I'll just grill you here.
Oh, I'd never say no to you, man. Come on.
And I appreciate you coming on. It's like I said, you've been a big booster of the indie community, and this is that cover you're talking about for the first one.
Yeah, so this is going to be the variant cover of the new book coming out like in early fall. So that's the Paul Green variant, and it was colored by the great Ula Moss, who's pretty much colored almost everything in comic books lately.
Yeah, geez, that's got some detail to it, and that color work is pro level.
My friend is just like,
Dan, control yourself.
Oh, I am.
No, that's really great. Thank you so much for just for showing us the picture, but for coming on all together.
yeah, I wanted to let you know you're a very genuine guy, and like, I mean, not to say any of our other guests weren't, but you're just very straightforward. You're a real nice guy.
Thanks, man. Try to be on the level. Trying to keep it real, and just try to keep moving forward and improving. Comic books is a passion of mine. I mean, when you look at that room, it's pretty easy. I didn't even get to show you some of the cool stuff, like some cool comics that you guys would probably really dig, but maybe next time.
Again, too. We love.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to come back, we have we'd be happy to have you.
Yeah, man, I come back on just to shoot the breeze with whatever it is you guys are talking about.
Yeah. Well, Matt specifically requested more theme shows.
We've been doing a lot of stacked interviews lately, and as much as I do love bringing people in and talking about their projects, it gets a little straining because it's like our other half of the show when we do discussions, I get to be a little more. Both of us and our guests tend to be. We get to be more vocal. And we also get to goof around a lot more than when you're talking to somebody about their project.
Yeah.
So, in the future, that's something I'd like to have more for you guys who are watching right now. I wanted to thank specifically. I mean, I want to thank everybody who shows up every week, but I do want to thank Star because she's been here almost the entire time. Same with Scott. Scott's been tuned in, has been tuned in almost the entire time. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much. It's really nice to know that people out there are listening.
And before we go, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and share some links to the campaigns we've talked about tonight. Mine, we haven't gotten into the details with, but that's okay. And here we've got the Nyobi one coming up for you guys in the chat here real quick. So you guys can go check those out in all of their glory, and throw a little support. I mean, heck, I would love you to support both of them but I feel like I'd be a bad host if I didn't especially pump up Nyobi's campaign. It's got 8 days, just needs $200 to fulfill on that one. And actually, that's the same number we're looking at for Tales of Shadow, because it's $200 we have till Wednesday. So if you guys happen to have an extra $400 in your pocket, you know how to make 2 people very happy,
right? For less than a cup of coffee a day, you too can fund a comic book project.
Only if you're going to Starbucks, though. If you go to, I know in the legendary land of the Mary, there is or really the East Coast, we have Wawa.
dude.
I heard about the Wawa. I got a guy that comes in my chat all the time. He says, I just came back from the Wawa. And I said, is that what you call the washroom down there? Like, I just went to the Wawa. But apparently it's a store. I mean,
it's a gas station that sells they have food there, and it's actually kind of decent for being made at a gas station.
Yeah, I got Tim Hortons here, eh?
I think that's your.
What's that now, Matt?
Is this a 2-page spread we're looking at?
Yeah, it's a 2-page spread we're looking at. I just got this yesterday, sort of idea.
This is great, and it breaks my heart. Right here, I to get a little political, this on the bottom left says abort it, and that hurts my soul, but it's poignant as hell.
Well,
that's so good.
Nyobi #1, you're gonna see that I don't stray away from social issues, because Nyobi #1, despite it having a sexy cover, what it's really about is teen suicide and being cyberbullied. And so that poor young man that you saw being haunted by the shadow critter, that creature feeds on negative energy. And that kid has a lot of negative energy right now just because of being bullied and the way he's treated for being differently. And he's also happens to be a huge fan of Nyobi. And so this creature just kind of eats away at his soul, until the point where he's so devastated that, he decides to end it all. And he tags her in a social media post, just kind of saying goodbye, and
that's that scene. That's cool, man. I dig that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what I say to people when they judge my book by its cover, and I get why they would do that. But, it was like a lady that walked by me in a Calgary Fan Expo, and she said, she looks at me, she looks around, she looks down at the book, she looks at me, and she goes, everything in here is a freaking porno. And I looked at her and I said, well, have you ever read Nyobi? She looks down at the book, she looks at me, she looks at the book, she looks at me, and goes, no, and I don't need to either, and storms off. Okay, well, I get it, sexy cover, but what I want, Captain Frugal. You guys know who Captain Frugal is?
Kind of.
Captain Frugal did an awesome review of my book, and he called Substance Over Sex. And if you really want to know what Nyobi's about, go watch that review because he nailed it. And
you have to do that. Captain Frugal's got some really great things to say. He's a thoughtful dude. He doesn't get enough attention. And the thing I love about that concept is that is the exact same situation that, in terms of that tagline, it applies to like rags too. And a lot of people point at rags and just say it's just an excuse to show a naked chick. But the whole thing is it's really is, if you can handle the nudity is just a metaphor for everything else going on. It's all about control and everything. And
what's kind of funny about that, you mentioned nudity. There's absolutely no nudity in any Nyobi comic book ever,
right?
And there never will.
That's appropriate.
People, offer us money like, hey, we'll buy 100 copies of your book if you have her topless, And that's just something that was just one bridge I never wanted to cross. I like having her look sexy, but there'll never be any nudity in the book. In fact, she's never even kissed a person in the book. So,
I think that fits so well with the pop star theme too, because that's what pop star does. That whole piece of I know you whether like it or not, that's the nature of pop music is selling the sexy. So I think that's an appropriate crossover with that.
Yeah, and that's all part of her image, right? Now you pointed out the aborted spray paint that's on the sidewalk there. So, of course, abortion, and when I started to write this was before the whole thing in Alabama started, right? This was before it was even, a big hot, abortion's always been a hot topic, but before it really blew up to what it was on social media. I started this before then, and I was a little bit nervous about doing this book after that happened. I'm like, well, how is this going to be received? But I always tackle things in a way of, I don't take a side. You know what I mean? I don't, this book isn't going to say, hey, you need to be pro-life. And this book isn't going to say, hey, you need to be pro-choice. This book is just a story that is happening that's going to make you think. And I think people are going to be shocked kind of by the ending of this. But what it is about is a woman is having a baby, and it's confirmed that the baby is a genome.
Right.
Okay. So genetic anomaly, a mutant. And, her mother was in a private sort of DM group talking about whether her daughter should abort the baby or not. And this DM got leaked down to the public and became viral.
Oh, jeez.
So what happens is this huge, riot starts, a huge mob shows up, pro and against, not just against abortion, but either pro-genome or anti-genome. So there's lots of things going on in the mix here. And they basically surrounded this woman's home. And so the cops are out there now, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And Nyobi kind of arrives on the scene to kind of help this situation out. And it's a two-part book, and it's wild.
See, and the thing I'm loving about your thing conceptually, right? And I'm really excited. I want to read this issue. One thing is you're talking about it's kind of X-Men meets
Gem and the holograms.
Yeah, Gem and the holograms. Yeah.
That was P.S. Meltzer's tagline, but it kind of suits. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is it's definitely. I mean, obviously that this kind of idea has been in X-Men comics too, but it still feels so appropriate to the discussion. I mean, it's not obviously a take on modern politics straight across, but the idea that you're still touching on those issues that they are applicable to our life, even though they're broad spectrum ideas. And I get, part of why I'm thinking about that too is it's not straight across, but you've got so much of what's going on in the world with places that have like government healthcare, and how is that interacted with people's choice for medical treatment and that kind of thing. It's not exactly what you're talking about, but it's just those principles are reflective. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there are social issues, then there's political issues, and you guys talked about a little earlier, and I know we've gone over, but I'll just say this, about politics have always sort of been in comic books, and while there are definitely cases of that, it was never sort of in your face, and it was never like saying, this is the only way to look at it. When politics have been presented or social issues been presented in comic books, it's usually in a bipartisan sort of fashion, just to kind of make you look at an angle. I remember, gun control and guns being a big thing and being represented in comics. I remember Batman becoming a drug addict in The Dark Knight, So I remember, these issues, Tony Stark being an alcoholic, if you will, right? So they're always presented in sort of this light to kind of make you think, but without really pushing something in your face or trying to, get you to convince you to take a side. I'm just simply looking at a story here that's interesting. And again, I wrote this in a very neutral sort of view, and I've been very careful to do that. And people are just, I guess they're gonna have to trust me on that,
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think it's like one of the things, especially like in X-Men comics, right? That I think one of the great elements that they had is that they have the mutants, and people have various opinions on mutants, but there's bad people on all sides of all issues, and there's good people on all sides of all issues, and so you have a chance to discuss, that is the issue a moral issue or is it not, right? Are you in a position where, as a person, you as the reader get to say, well, the story is not preaching a worldview; it's discussing the nature of decision making. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that And because you know, you can have a bad reason. I mean, you can have sometimes people have a good reason for having a less than good principled idea. And I think if we understand and rather than assuming that a person is evil based on their political view, find out why they hold that view. Maybe they're wrong. That doesn't necessarily make them evil.
No, I mean, just because, this is say you and I think differently on a certain issue, whatever that issue may be, that doesn't make you a Nazi. That doesn't make me a Nazi. I mean, the world has been like that since human beings have been on here. We just didn't have social media, and so we didn't have the ability to slam down our opinions in 5 seconds or less and share it with the world. I think that social media really is the cause of the culture war, because without social media, I would have to talk to you on the phone, or I would have to give you, visit you in person, or at least write you a letter to express any sort of view to you. Now with social media, I can go on to my Twitter or my Facebook or Instagram, whatever the case may be, and say whatever I want to say and open it up to the entire world. And so, of course, when you do that, everyone's going to have an opinion, and usually everyone's opinion is different in some way,
Yeah, and one of the things too is that because social media is so quick and so immediate, we often have a situation where we don't really get to process the completeness of our concept of idea. So we talk in sound bites instead of being able to talk in sentences and paragraphs and deal with the complexities of our thoughts.
Well, we're very much headline readers, and we pretty much see a headline and assume it's true, without any sort of real fact checking or really diving into something. I've seen plenty of cases of
that. And Twitter is all headlines.
Twitter is like headline the website, is come to think of it. That's actually a way of a pretty sure the way of thinking about it. And as much as I do love talking about, I don't enjoy talking politics on most places, but on here, I kind of like it because I feel like there's kind of I know, even though I tend to agree with most of you guys across the board, I feel like something productive kind of still comes from it, with understanding communication and such, because you always bring different things to the table. Unfortunately, we're running 24 minutes over.
Oh,
yeah, but
yeah, we're pretty late right now.
But I do want to thank you again so much for coming on.
Oh, no worries. I got the gift of gab. I probably could have kept this going for another half hour, boys.
Well, I mean, we got to talking into a lot of the meat right at the end there, so I didn't want to cut out, because I'm very intrigued and I'm very excited for the project. We're gonna have to take a look at the old budget and see what I can make happen. So, but Larry, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have you again if you want to come back.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Anytime I'm available, man.
Okay, awesome. Good. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye to those faithful in the chat, and even the people that left early. We want to thank you guys for stopping by if you happen to catch it on replay. And definitely check out Nyobi, check out Tales of Shadow, Vox Populi, and you guys have one question I meant to ask earlier. Scott in the chat asked if you are a fan of Rammstein.
I remember Du Hast when that album came out. That was really to the extent of my Rammstein, experience. I've had friends that really dug it. They had some great heavy riffs, that was for sure. But not something I was really, other than that sort of one cassette, I never had any other exposure to it.
Well, there you go, Scott. If you're still there, you have your answer. And otherwise, people can tell you in our Discord. So,
well, that's actually one thing I want to talk about is to anybody, to people that stick around. I always do appreciate you, but really the fact that anyone clicks on the video for even just a little bit, it always makes me happy. We leave these videos up, and then I see them say that they have 53 views on. I'm like, wow, 53 different times that this video has been opened.
Yeah, it's a pretty humbling experience to find out people come and check us out later. So I do appreciate that. But we are going to call it a night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and for our Matt, thanks for being the co-host, and Larry for telling us your calling.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and talking some comics, man.
Absolutely, that's what we're here for. So thanks for checking us out, and have yourselves a great Thursday night.